and this lower one is called meniscomandibular part. So menisco means a cartilage. Meniscus means a shock absorbing mechanism, a sheet like structure. So anteriorly, and this is the posterior attachment. Laterally, it is attached to the inside the fibrous capsule. Fibrous capsule attached to the and this intraarticular disc has got two thickenings. One is the anterior thickening, which is large, and another there is posterior thickening, which is smaller. The posterior part of the disc is having elastic fibers also. Elasticity is there and elastic fibers are there. So it is stretchable posteriorly. And if we remove this intraarticular disc by dissection out of the TM joint, then it looks like this. So this is the anterior side, this is the posterior side. The two layers which are attached, upper and lower. Anteriorly one. And it has got two thickenings. Anterior thickening, which is large, is called the anterior band. And this is the posterior band. So this is the shape of the intraarticular disc. In the middle part, it is exactly like the shape of the head of the mandible. And in the neutral position, the head of the mandible lies here, between the anterior and the posterior band. So it is elliptical also. As the head of the mandible size, the shape is elliptical. So it is also elliptical in the shape. That's why it is broader like the broadness of the lateral to medial or side to side length of the head of the mandible. And what is the length of the head of the mandible? Lateral to medial or right to left is, I have told you, 20 mm or 2 centimeter. And peripherally it is attached here. This is the fibrous capsule attachment you can show. This is the fibrous capsule attachment. So this is the remnant part of the fibrous capsule from where it has been cut and show outside. As we already said that on the lateral side it is attached to the fibrous capsule. So this is the complete diagram of what is called the intra-articular disc. I don't think it is given in your book. So this is how to make it. Whenever exam they come, TM joint, then you have to show everything about the intra-articular. So its function is shock absorber. It is shock absorber. Again, whenever there is a lower injury of the mandible, then the head of the mandible won't strike against the mandibular fossa. Both are bone. One is already, I have told you, they are covered by articular cartilage, which is again fibrocartilage. All the surfaces, they are covered by fibrocartilage. So in the joint, wherever the chances of the bone touching the bone, it is covered or lined by the thin slice of the fibrocartilage, that is the again shock absorber. Secondly, it is more shock absorber. Another mechanism is the intra-articular disc. So every measure has been taken to protect the TM joint and making it injury free. So that is the function you have to write down. Plus it also divides the cavity into superior and the inferior part. That is again the function. So the cavity becomes two volume over there. So this is how we divide this TM joint. Now comes the relations of the TM joint. In the laterally, medially, anteriorly, and the posterior relations. Then we have to write down about the movements. So movements of the TM joint, they are the number one, the depression, elevation, side to side movement, and you have to write down the muscles producing them, all these movements. That is how to write about the. So depression means lowering of the mandible is called the depression, lowering, and it causes the opening of the mouth. So whenever the mandible moves downward, the mouth is open, and elevation is the opposite. So what is the mechanism of the depression? That is more difficult to understand than the elevation or closure. So what happens? This is done by lateral pterygoid, which is the only opener of. So muscles, movements, and the muscles producing them. So depression is done by the lateral pterygoid. So in the lateral pterygoid muscle, what happens? We have already explained it when we were doing the muscle. That lateral pterygoid muscle contracts, and this contraction of the lateral pterygoid, which is inserted on the anterior surface of the neck of the mandible, that is the pterygoid fovea. Then what happens? That this head of the mandible, it moves forward and it comes under articular tubercle. And whenever the articular tubercle comes, there is a depression. It goes downward and mouth ultimately opens. So that is the mechanism. And this head of the mandible, and there is a disc. So in the neutral position, the mandibular fossa is fitted by head of the mandible. Both are elliptical. is in neutral position. But whenever the lateral pterygoid moves in the anterior part, then this head of the mandible, it also moves forward and come under articular tubercle. Then this intra-articular disc stretches and head is held between the anterior and the posterior band. So head of the mandible along with the intra-articular disc, it moves in the forward direction. So there is this is called the gliding movement, and gliding movement comes in the upper compartment of the TM joint with the help of the disc. So that is the mechanism. Only gliding in the upper and the lower, both the movements are occurring with the head, and the disc is also moving with the head, held by the anterior and the posterior band. So that's why I have told you, put your finger in front of the tragus. What you feel? The head of the mandible, you can feel it. Now slightly open your mouth. Now you will see that the head of the mandible slips under your finger. Where it has gone? Anteriorly. Because when the muscle will contract, the mandible move forward. And when the mandible head move forward, what it comes under? Bony articular tubercle. So when it comes under the articular tubercle like this is the new position of the mandible. So mandible will move downward. So when the mandible move will downward, our mouth will open. So that is the mechanism here. Not alone the lateral pterygoid, but suprahyoid muscles, they also help. Lateral pterygoid plus suprahyoid muscles. You have done the anterior triangle, there is a hyoid bone, and muscles of the anterior triangle are divided into two parts, suprahyoid and infrahyoid. There were 4 muscles in the suprahyoid and 4 in the infrahyoid. What are the 4 muscles of the suprahyoid? Number 1, anterior belly of digastric. And below that, what lies? Which muscle? The diaphragm of the oral cavity, mylohyoid. And what was the 3rd muscle? Taking origin from the tip of the styloid process, stylohyoid. And what is the deepest muscle here? Taking origin from the inferior genial tubercles of the mandible. Inferior genial tubercle, gynohyoid. So mylohyoid, gynohyoid and digastric, all 3 muscles here, when they contract, what they will bring about? Mandible will move. So why the lateral pterygoid is doing its function? The infrahyoid, suprahyoid muscle, they also assist in depression. That you have to mention these 3 muscles as well. Number 1, mylohyoid. Number 2, gynohyoid. And number 3, digastric. So these are bringing it down, because all are attached to the body of the mandible. Mylohyoid line, mylohyoid muscle. Digastric fossa, anterior belly of digastric takes origin. Inferior genial tubercle, gynohyoid. And all are going to insert in the hyoid bone, lies in the middle. So whenever these muscles they contract, the mandible or the chin goes and mouth opens. So this is how to explain what is the depression or lowering of the mandible with these muscles. Now these muscles, they also with the hyoid bone, the chin, so muscle is the gynohyoid, from genial tubercle to the hyoid bone, the digastric, and this is the mylohyoid line. So here is the muscle mylohyoid. And above here, the digastric belly. Held by the stylohyoid ligament from styloid process, mastoid process. So all these muscles, gynohyoid, digastric and mylohyoid, they move in the diagonal direction. And these infrahyoid, suprahyoid muscles, they also help in the retraction of the mandible. Another movement is retraction. So one is protrusion. Protrusion means forward movement. And retraction is backward movement. So that is also done by the suprahyoid muscles in the retraction. Then elevation is produced by all other muscles of the masseter, medial pterygoid, and the temporalis. So all they done the upward elevation by their contraction, and they are also producing the side to side movements also. Side to side movement is done by the lateral and medial pterygoid, both when they alternatively act. So they bring about the side to side movement, and this movement is rotational movement. And this rotational movement acts on the vertical axis. This is done on the vertical axis. So when the mandible is moving, side to side movement, so the axis moves the vertical. If the mandible is moving forward and backward, the upward and downward movement. So where is the axis? Horizontal axis. So axis you have to write down. Who will write the axis? Axis will get the more marks. So which axis is there? Vertical axis, in which there is a chewing movement. Whenever we chew the food, maxillary teeth, upper one, they are fixed. Skull is not moving, that is stationary. Only mandible is moving up and down, elevation and depression, plus side to side movement. So side to side movement is done by lateral and the medial pterygoid muscle. And that is called rotatory movement. Here there is a rotation of the head. And this rotation of the head involves the lower, that is the menisco-mandibular compartment. Rotational movement. And this rotational movement is done by the various circles which is formed in the head of the mandible during this rotation movement with different radii. So head is moving, and with the head rotational movement in the lower part in the vertical axis. So various circles, they are involved in the head of the mandible with the different radii. So radius is different. So it is not on the one point. So various points are there taking place in the rotational movements, that you have to explain what is the side to side movement. So this is all about the TM joint. So first we have done the bones, then we have explained the bones. Second part we have taken the various ligaments, we explained them. And third we have done the intra-articular disc. Fourth we have done the relations, and after the relations, that is the movements. Now last part is the applied. So in the applied, you can write down the first is the again lockjaw, as we have done in the muscles of the mastication. Again, you have to write down the same applied, the lockjaw. Same you have to repeat. In tetanus, whatever we have written. So this lockjaw is one of the cause is the tetanus. There may be another causes. That is the fracture of the neck of the mandible. If there is a fracture of the neck of the one side of the mandible, we know this is the only joint of the body, TM joint, which acts simultaneously. If there is a fracture of the one side of the neck of the mandible, then other side won't move. So simple. So whenever there is a fracture of the neck, then what will happen? That part will become stationary. The other will be also stationary. And what lies on the medial aspect of the neck? Medial surface of the neck is related to three things I have told you. On the medial surface, three things are present. One nerve, one artery, one vein. What is the nerve of? Auriculotemporal. What is the artery? And vein? Maxillary vein. So all are touching medial. So whenever there will be fractured, so these three structures, they get enwrapped or engaged in the fracture fragments of the bone, and they are liable to be injured. So artery and vein injury lead to the bleeding in this area. So blood will be clotted here. Then auriculotemporal nerve will be damaged. Will be cut. So what will be the problem? Number one, dryness of the mouth of that side. Why there is dryness? Not because of the Horner syndrome. It is because of damage to parotid branch of the auricular nerve, which is giving secretomotor fibers. Number two, there will be sensory loss of the skin covering the temporalis muscle. Number three, there will be loss of pain, temperature, pressure, touch, general sensation from the lateral surface of the skin of the ear, because its name is auriculotemporal. So it is a sensory nerve. So it supplies the skin. S for S. Sensory means skin of the temporal region and this part of the skin. So there are two types of the skin of the ear. One is lateral surface, other is this is the medial surface. The medial surface is supplied by some other nerve. That is the great auricular nerve that you have done in the posterior triangle. Great auricular with root value C2 and C3. But this surface is mainly covered by auriculotemporal. So you have to write down. Just writing the auriculotemporal is not enough. What is the subsequently problem to the patient? When he comes to doctor that I am not having any pain, temperature here. This part of the skin is numb. I can't feel it, anything. It means something wrong has happened to the auriculotemporal. Another cause of the lockjaw is ankylosis. What is ankylosis? Fusion of the articular surfaces of the any joint. In the old age people it is very common. That is the temporal fossa. The space between the head of the mandible and temporal fossa becomes minimal. They becomes very, very close. The fibrous capsule shrinks and articular disc becomes thin, paper-like in the old age. So that may cause the ankylosis of the, if one joint or bilateral. But the problem is lockjaw because both are act simultaneously. If one is not acting, other is not acting. Whether everything is normal here. So that is the problem. Ankylosis of the TM joint. Another applied you can write down about the dislocation. So dislocation, anterior dislocation is most common part of the TM joint. Anterior dislocation is very common. Why? Because posteriorly it can't go, because posteriorly there is a mastoid and the styloid process. So bones won't allow. There is no lateral dislocation because of the only one ligament of the TM joint. That is called lateral TM ligament, lateral temporomandibular ligament. It prevents the lateral dislocation. Medially it cannot go because of the raised bony part. Only anterior dislocation is common, and it usually occurs in the old age. Usually the grannies, they do this. So in this what happens? There is a spasm of the lateral pterygoid muscle. Sudden spasm of the lateral pterygoid during yawning. So during yawning, mouth remains open because lateral pterygoid undergoes spasm. Sudden spasm. And head come below the articular tubercle. It is arrested here, along with the disc in between. So this leads to the permanent opening of the mouth. Patient can't close the mouth. Whether all the muscles they are okay, but the lateral pterygoid muscle spasm is so strong that there is no ability to elevate the mandible. Mandible remains depressed. So how to correct it? We have to go on the back side of the patient. Patient has to be sit on the chair, and we put both the thumbs just behind the last molar tooth, and we give equal pressure bilaterally in a vertical downward manner. Vertical downward manner to break the spasm. And after 2 or 3 minutes, a force applied in the lower part, we elevate the chin. So here we mandible, we put the thumb here inside the oral cavity of the patient, and we depress, make the pressure on the mandible downward, because mouth is likely open. So here all the muscles of the masseter, medial pterygoid and temporalis, they get also relaxed, and we gently elevate the chin. So when we elevate the chin, see the mandible, head of the mandible. So when we elevate, the head goes posteriorly back into the